I'm Darren Gibson with a special update about the event that was scheduled for Saturday, May 20th in Mason, Michigan. Due to circumstances beyond our control, we are postponing this event. We're hoping to keep the date, but move to a different venue. But if necessary, we will postpone the date for a different venue. So as of now, the special interview with Mason City Councilor Rita Vogel is being postponed until further notice. As soon as we get confirmation on a new venue, we will pass that word along to you via our Facebook page and a special message via our podcast servers. Once again, our scheduled interview with Rita Vogel in Mason, Michigan is temporarily postponed. And now, here's this week's episode of Southpaws.
For the hardest-hitting show in talk radio, the true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. I'm Darren Gibson, your host. We have another mass shooting, 8 dead at a Texas outlet mall. We'll tell you all about that. Another shooting where the victim was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Currently, as it stands, you can get shot for knocking on the wrong door, turning around in the wrong driveway, getting in the wrong car. Now you can get shot for playing hide and seek. It was a bad day for Donald Trump in court. We'll tell you about E. Jean Carroll. It was even worse for the Proud Boys. Some of them might be going to prison for several decades. This is going to be great. We have some awful news coming out of Texas regarding abortion care. We got to tell you this story. Plus, we have a Hammer Time, and for the first time in a long time, we have an off-the-cuff segment that might turn your stomach a little bit. Plus, speaking of stomachs, we're going to have another episode of As Ottawa County Turns, so make sure you stick around for that. In the meantime, before we get started with today's topics, a couple of reminders. You can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can follow us on YouTube and Mastodon by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. And you can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Podvine, and Pandora by doing a search for Southpaws. Once you found our logo, you found us. We send links to our weekly episodes to our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, and Mastodon accounts. You can listen to us on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Saturday night at 11 Eastern. And you can listen to us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, and KEPJ in San Antonio, Texas. So be sure to listen to us on your local Pacifica station. Yet another mass shooting, this time Allen, Texas, 8 dead, 7 others wounded. And it could have been a lot worse. This is Jake Bleiberg and Rebecca Boone writing for the Associated Press dated May 7th. A gunman stepped out of a silver sedan and started shooting people at a Dallas area outlet mall Saturday, killing 8 and wounding 7 others, 3 critically, before being killed by a police officer who happened to be nearby. Authorities did not immediately provide details about the victims at Allen Premium Outlets, a sprawling outdoor shopping center, but witnesses reported seeing children among the victims. So we will talk about that when we get to the victims here. This now is the second largest mass shooting this year so far. Let me skip down a little bit in this story. 16-year-old pretzel stand employee Maxwell Gum described a virtual stampede of shoppers trying to flee the mall. He and others sheltered in a storage room. He said, quote, We started running. Kids were getting trampled. My coworker picked up a 4-year-old girl and gave her to her parents. End of quote. Dash cam video that circulated online showed the gunman getting out of a car and shooting at people on the sidewalk. More than 36 shots could be heard as the vehicle recording the video drove off. Allen, Texas Fire Chief Jonathan Boyd said 7 people, including the shooter, died at the scene. 9 victims were taken to area hospitals. 2 of them died at the hospital. 3 of the wounded were in critical condition immediately after the shooting. 4 were in stable condition. The only reason this didn't get any worse was that there was an Allen police officer in the area on an unrelated call when he heard the shots. In a statement on Facebook, the Allen Police Department said, quote, the officer engaged the suspect and neutralized the threat. He then called for emergency personnel. End of quote. According to a database maintained by the Associated Press and USA Today in partnership with Northeastern University, mass killings are happening with staggering frequency in the United States this year, an average of about 1 a week. This is horrible, folks. The White House said President Joe Biden had been briefed on the shooting and the administration had offered support to local officials. Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who has signed laws easing firearm restrictions following past mass shootings, called it a, quote, unspeakable tragedy. No, the unspeakable tragedy is that you're still in office. I wish somebody would roll him into the river. I'm dead serious. I am sick and I am tired of talking about these violent conservatives at every episode of this show. I am sick of it. 35-year-old Fontaine Payton was at H&M when he heard the sound of gunshots through his headphones. He said, quote, it was so loud it sounded like it was right outside, end of quote. People in the store scattered before employees ushered the group into the fitting rooms and then a lockable back room. When they were given the all clear to leave, Payton saw the store had broken windows and a trail of blood to the door. Discarded sandals and bloody clothes lay nearby. Once outside, Payton saw bodies. He said, quote, I pray it wasn't kids, but it looked like kids. End of quote. The bodies were covered in white towels slumped over bags on the ground. He added, quote, it broke me when I walked out to see that. End of quote. Further away, he saw the body of a heavy-set man wearing all black. He assumed it was the shooter because, according to Payton, unlike the other bodies, it had not been covered up. So this is what you get now, just going to the mall to shop. Allen, Texas is about 25 miles north of downtown Dallas, and they have a population of about 105,000. So yet another statistic in this country. We'll get to the next story here talking about the victims. This is Jamie Stengel, Vanessa A. Alvarez, and Rebecca Reynolds writing for the Associated Press. This is dated May 9th out of Dallas. The people killed in a shooting at a mall near Dallas include 2 elementary school-age sisters, a couple and their 3-year-old son, a young engineer, and a security guard. The victims represent a multicultural cross-section of the area's increasingly diverse suburbs. Cox Elementary School students Daniela and Sofia Mendoza, grades 4 and 2, were among those killed Saturday at Allen Premium Outlets. That's according to officials in the Wiley Independent School District. School principal Krista Wilson said in a letter to parents that the 2 girls were remembered as, quote, the kindest, most thoughtful students with smiles that could light up any room, end of quote. Also killed at the outdoor shopping center were 3 members of a Korean-American family, a couple and one of their sons, who was 3. Another son was wounded and was still hospitalized. That's according to the head of the mission at the Consulate of the Republic of Korea in Dallas. The parents were identified as 37-year-old Kyu Song Cho and 35-year-old Cindy Cho. Again, their 3-year-old son killed as well. Their 6-year-old son in the hospital and now orphaned. Porter Legal Group said in a Facebook post on Tuesday that they were shocked and crushed to learn that Kyu Cho, a managing attorney, was among the victims. The post said, quote, although Q had only been with our firm for a year, it was immediately apparent that he is one of the most thoughtful, caring, and considerate people we have ever had the pleasure to know and work alongside. He was that way as a leader, mentor, and friend at our organization, too. He was loved and respected by his and our entire team. End of quote. Andrea Gaither, assistant manager at the mall's Tommy Hilfiger store, said she was devastated to learn that one of the dead was 20-year-old Christian LaCour, a security guard who previously worked at the clothing store and often stopped in to chat. Gaither herself had run for her life when shots rang out. Just a few nights earlier, she had called LaCour when a customer wanted to come inside after hours. He came and asked the man to leave, then offered a security escort to her and her 2 teenage employees. Gaither said, quote, "He wanted us to feel safe. I'm just in shock. He was very young, very sweet, came in all the time to visit with us." End of quote. Also killed was 26-year-old Aishwarya Thedakanda, who was from India. She held a graduate degree in construction management and worked as a civil engineer at the Dallas area firm Perfect General Contractors. And I believe that she is also a graduate of Eastern Michigan University. EMU has one of the best engineering programs in the country. So that, and for that matter, the world. So that's probably why she was there, getting her degree in construction management. The founder of the company said in an email that she was, quote, "always prepared to give her very best," end of quote. The company also said that her parents live in India. Her father is a judge there, adding that she had come to the U.S. to make a career, build a family, own a home, and live forever in Dallas. She would have turned 27 next week. This is just disgusting. An aunt of the Mendoza sisters said that their mother was still hospitalized and asked for prayers. In a fundraising post verified by GoFundMe, Annabelle Delangel wrote, quote, "Please pray for our now broken family. The girls have left a void that nothing in the world could ever fill. Please pray for their mom, my sister, and her broken heart." End of quote. She also asked for prayers for the girl's father. Texas Department of Public Safety identified the 8th victim as 32-year-old Elio Cumana Rivas. Police identified the gunman as 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia. An Associated Press review of his online activity shows he had a fascination with white supremacy and mass shootings. He also sported large Nazi tattoos, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about it with our next story. This is Jake Bleiberg, Gene Johnson, and Lolita C. Baldor writing for the Associated Press. This is dated May 9th out of Dallas. The man accused of killing 8 people and wounding several others in a mass shooting at a suburban Dallas shopping mall researched when it was the busiest and posted photos on social media in mid-April of a store near where he ultimately started his attack. The post by Mauricio Garcia on a Russian social networking site suggests the 33-year-old had been planning the attack for weeks before he stepped out of a silver sedan and opened fire Saturday. Garcia's online activity also betrayed a fascination with white supremacy and mass shootings, which he described as sport. Photos he posted show large Nazi tattoos on his arm and torso, including a swastika on his chest and the SS lightning bolt logo of Hitler's paramilitary forces. That was on his arm. Other posts indicated Garcia had researched when the Allen Premium Outlets in Allen, one of the Dallas area's most diverse suburbs, would be the busiest, which was Saturday afternoons, the time he carried out the massacre, which ended when police shot and killed him. The online activity contributed to an emerging picture of the gunman Monday. He was discharged from the Army in 2008 because of mental health issues and apparently had been working as a security guard, according to neighbors and an Army official. Eric Toller, Director of Training and Research at the international research collective Bellingcat.com, said he identified Garcia's profile on the site OK.ru by searching for active accounts with his birth date located in the U.S. The Associated Press independently verified the account, which also featured an image of a traffic ticket with Garcia's name and birth date, as well as paperwork from a motel where he stayed before the shooting. Federal agents investigating what motivated the shooting have also reviewed the online posts, according to a federal law enforcement official who cannot discuss details of the investigation publicly and spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity. The official also said that Garcia had a patch on his chest when police killed him that read RWDS. It's an acronym for the phrase Right-Wing Death Squad, which is popular among right-wing extremist and white supremacy groups. There you go, folks. I have been telling you this for years. These right-wingers, these violent conservative traitors, want to kill you. Right here's the proof. Investigators have also interviewed family members and associates of Garcia to ask about his ideological beliefs and are examining his financial records and other electronic media. Garcia joined the Army in 2008, but according to U.S. Army spokeswoman Heather J. Hagan, was terminated 3 months later without completing his initial training. According to an Army official who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss personnel issues, he was kicked out due to mental health issues. Garcia received an uncharacterized discharge, which is common for recruits who don't make it through training or the first 180 days, according to a defense official who also spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss personnel issues. That type of discharge, which is not dishonorable, would not set off red flags or require any reports to law enforcement. On the Dallas block where Garcia lived at a family home until recently, neighbors said they thought he worked as a security guard, but they weren't sure where. The company that manages the mall where the attack happened did not immediately reply to messages seeking further information. A woman who lives next door said she didn't know her neighbors well, but described them as nice and polite. She said that Garcia was always friendly, waving and honking. A law enforcement official said investigators have also searched a Dallas motel where Garcia had been staying ahead of the attack. Amid protests Monday at the Texas Capitol for stricter gun control, 2 Republicans sided with Democrats to advance a bill that would raise the age to buy semi-automatic rifles from 18 to 21, though the measure has little or no chance of actually becoming law. The shooting was the latest attack to contribute to the unprecedented pace of mass killings in the U.S. this year. Just over a week before, 5 people were fatally shot in Cleveland, Texas, after a neighbor asked a man to stop firing his weapon while a baby slept. The community mourned the dead and awaited word on the 7 people who were wounded. Medical City Healthcare said Monday it was treating 6 patients. 3 were in critical condition, 2 in fair condition, 1 in good condition at a children's hospital. Police said a 7th wounded person was taken to a different hospital. Allen, which is home to about 105,000 people, is among the Dallas-Fort Worth area's diverse suburbs. The area saw the largest Asian American growth rate of any major U.S. metro area, according to U.S. Census figures. Those statistics show that Allen's population is about 19% Asian, 10% black, and 11% Hispanic. Allen also is connected to another of Texas's recent mass shootings. Patrick Crusius lived there in 2019 before he posted a racist screed online warning of a Hispanic invasion and drove to El Paso, where he opened fire at a Walmart, killing 23 people. The 24-year-old Crusius pleaded guilty to federal hate crime and weapons charges in February. So we'll see what happens there. And as I mentioned before, that's not the only shooting we have to talk about. I have this from the Associated Press, also dated May 9th. This story comes to us from Starks, Louisiana. A Louisiana man faces aggravated assault and battery charges after firing a gun at children who were playing hide-and-seek outside his home, wounding a 14-year-old girl. According to the local sheriff's office, the girl suffered a gunshot wound to the back of the head early Sunday. She was taken to a hospital with injuries that were not considered life-threatening. 58-year-old David Doyle remained in the Calcasieu Parish Correctional Center on Tuesday morning. Jail records show that his bond was set at $300,000. He has been assigned a public defender. Neither an attorney at the public defender's office nor the local district attorney immediately returned phone calls seeking more information. Investigators learned that several children were playing hide-and-seek in the Starks community and were hiding on the neighbor's property. Doyle told detectives that he got his gun when he saw shadows outside his home and shot at the people he saw running away, unknowingly hitting the girl. Doyle was arrested and charged with aggravated battery, 4 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm, and illegal discharge of a firearm. This is just god-awful stuff. I can't read any more of these shooting stories here. I tell you what, let's go ahead. Let's lighten the mood a little bit. It's time for our next segment here. And in order to do that, we have to have the appropriate music. And now, Hoctor and Ramble present As Ottawa County Turns. Brought to you by Draft Laundry Detergent. It removes stains and leaves holes in your clothes. Oh, yes, it does. That's why they call it draft. It leaves a draft. I have this story. This is from WXMI. They're the local Fox affiliate in Grand Rapids. This comes to us from Lansing, Michigan. A judge has sanctioned the Ottawa County government for allegedly forestalling the $81 million distribution of opioid settlement funds. The Michigan Department of Attorney General says the county issued a complaint asserting that they are entitled to more compensation than they are owed. Apparently, this came after county officials agreed to settlement terms. The state said that Ottawa County submitted misleading claims and frivolous court documents based on false information. A Third Circuit court sanctioned the county as a result, which the Attorney General's office calls a rare move. Attorney General Dana Nessel said, quote, Ottawa County held up the significant settlement distribution from which its residents stand to gain greatly. Judge Farsard's sanctions properly reflect the frivolous nature of Ottawa County's misuse of the courts. End of quote. State officials say more than 50 local governments requested for Ottawa County to be sanctioned over the delay, which affects 269 local governments. Grand Traverse County Deputy Administrator Chris Forsyth said, quote, opioid addiction doesn't discriminate based on where someone lives or how much money they make. We are anxious to use settlement funds to help our community heal and prevent any more lives from being destroyed. Thankfully, this ruling finally allows us to move forward in that mission. End of quote. Ottawa County will still receive its share of funds from the settlement. The extent of the sanctions will be decided at a hearing scheduled for May 10th. So we will keep you updated on the sanctions against Ottawa County. All right, we've got another story out of Ottawa County as well. This is Mitchell Boatman, writing for the Holland Sentinel. This is dated May 9th. After weeks of discussion and debate, the funding agreement for a critical community health assessment has been approved by the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners. The commissioners voted to approve a memorandum of understanding for the community health needs assessment on Tuesday, May 9th. The board had previously opted to delay approval over questions in a related survey. The Memorandum of Understanding outlines funding agreements between the Ottawa County Department of Public Health and various CHNA partners. The agreement was approved in a 10-1 vote Tuesday. Chair Joe Moss, Vice Chair Sylvia Rodea, and Commissioners Gretchen Cosby, Doug Zylstra, Jacob Bonema, Kyle Terpstra, Rebecca Curran, Roger Belknap, Roger Bergman, and Allison Miedema voted in favor. Commissioner Lucy Ebel was the lone dissenting vote. The Community Health Needs Assessment comprises several surveys and stakeholder interviews that gather input on the health needs of Ottawa County every 3 years. It's a partnership between the Ottawa County Department of Public Health, Holland Hospital, Corwell Health Zealand Hospital, Trinity Health Grand Haven, United Way of Ottawa and Allegan Counties, Community Mental Health, and other organizations. In addition to revealing needs and trends in the county, it helps the 3 hospitals meet regulatory requirements to keep their nonprofit tax-exempt status. Partnering with the hospitals rather than each hospital doing an assessment on their own helps identify countywide trends. Most recently, the board discussed the Memorandum of Understanding during a meeting Thursday, April 27th. Concerns centered on questions asked during the Behavioral Risk Factor Survey, a key component of the CHNA. The BRFS is a phone survey of randomly selected county residents. It's voluntary and only administered to residents 18 and older. In the time between meetings, some commissioners suggested adding a notice prior to survey sections on suicide and adverse childhood experiences to let responders know the coming topics involved sensitive questions. Commissioners who requested the change said it would, quote, put the individual's needs above solely the survey results, end of quote. By the way, that's according to Allison Miedema, the commissioner. That request was unanimously voted down by the Healthy Ottawa Advisory Committee, the group that determines what questions will be asked each survey cycle. Chairman Moss said, quote, I thought that it would be very reasonable to add a couple of lines that would say, here's what we're going to be asking about. Would you like to answer these questions? That might have been a better way to do the survey. I'd say, I guess, that I'm a little disappointed that the Health Ottawa Advisory Committee voted unanimously against giving respondents a little more informed consent up front, end of quote. But according to an email from Deputy Health Director Marcia Mansaray to County Administrator John Gibbs, existing wording already adequately addresses the commissioner's concerns, and adding the new language could cause the introductions to be leading, meaning it could cause respondents, quote, to answer in a different way than they would have had the wording been more neutral, end of quote. The existing wording in the introduction has language like this. The next few questions are sensitive topics, and some people may feel uncomfortable with these questions, and I'd like to ask you some questions about events that happened in your childhood. This information will allow us to better understand problems that may occur early in life and may help others in the future. Please keep in mind that you can ask me to skip any question you do not want to answer. And that's how it is in the survey. The surveyor also provides a phone number for a local organization that can provide support if the respondent wants it. But commissioners are still unhappy. Vice Chair Rodea said Tuesday, quote, very simple, reasonable requests were made to the Health Department and the Healthy Ottawa partners to watch out for the emotional needs of our community members, and those simple, reasonable requests were rejected, end of quote. No, they weren't, you moron. She's just pissed that the council didn't get their own way, because that's what they've been doing in their meetings, getting everything their way and everybody else. It's that simple. She added that she felt bureaucracies were being prioritized over the well-being of people. No, you don't give a damn about the well-being of people there, lady. You've proven that by your votes. Although the agreement was approved Tuesday, some commissioners vowed to be more vigilant in the future. the ones that are going to have a future, because I'm hoping a lot of these sons of bitches get voted out of office in a recall election. Because that's what the county voters need to do, is recall these sons of bitches. Rodea said, quote, this process has highlighted a need for more oversight and for proper process to happen in our county, which has been greatly lacking. We will be looking for ways that we can take corrective action in the future and ensure that these things don't just slip through in the first place again, end of quote. Oh, really? Yeah, bullshit. You don't give a fuck about these people, lady. Oh, my God. This is why I get mad. This is why I have to take blood pressure medicine every single day of my life. In April, Corwell Health, Holland Hospital, and Trinity Health Grand Haven issued a joint statement saying they were disappointed the board delayed the approval. The statement read in part, the community health needs assessment includes important research which enables our hospitals and community agencies to accurately identify the health needs of our community, develop strategies to address them, and collaborate to improve health outcomes for all individuals in Ottawa County. Well, and there you go. Like I said, they don't give a damn about what happens to people in Ottawa County. They just don't care. They never have. It's all about power for them. And the more power they get, the worse it's going to get. You need to recall these people out of office now. And with that being our final story there for Ottawa County, it's time for us to go. So let's go ahead with the music and the outro. Join us again soon for another edition of As Ottawa County Turns. This program is produced for Big D Entertainment. Stay tuned for the Edge of Blight over most of these stations. Again, if anybody has seen the Edge of Blight, please tell me if it's any good. All right, so there's our visit to Ottawa County. And let's go ahead to our next story here. It was a bad day for Donald Trump on Tuesday. This is Larry Neumeister, Jennifer Peltz, and Michael R. Sizak writing for the Associated Press. This is dated May 9th out of New York City. A jury found Donald Trump liable Tuesday for sexually abusing advice columnist E. Jean Carroll in 1996, awarding her $5 million in a judgment that could haunt Trump as he campaigns to regain the White House. The verdict was announced in a federal courtroom in New York City on the first day of deliberations. Jurors rejected Carroll's claim that she was raped, but found Trump liable for sexual abuse and for defaming Carroll after she made her allegations public. Trump chose not to attend the civil trial and was absent when the verdict was read. Carroll nodded as the verdict was read. Afterward, her lawyers put their arms around her and she hugged supporters in the gallery, smiling through tears. Trump's lawyer, Joseph Tacopina, shook hands with Carroll and hugged her lawyer, Roberta Kaplan. As the courtroom cleared, Carroll could be heard laughing and crying. Trump immediately lashed out with a statement on his social media site, claiming again that he does not know Carroll and referring to the verdict as a disgrace and a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. Bullshit. It's not a witch hunt. It's true. Found true. The trial's outcome was a validation for Carroll, one of more than a dozen women who have accused Trump of sexual assault or harassment. She went public in 2019 with her allegation that the Republican raped her in the dressing room of a posh Manhattan department store. The 76-year-old Trump denied it, saying he never encountered Carroll at the store and did not know her. He has called her a nut job who invented a fraudulent and false story to sell a memoir. The 79-year-old Carroll had sought unspecified damages plus a retraction of what she said were Trump's defamatory denials of her claims. The trial revisited the lightning rod topic of Trump's conduct toward women. Carroll gave multiple days of frank, occasionally emotional testimony buttressed by two friends who told jurors she reported the alleged attack to them in the moments and day afterward. Jurors also heard from Jessica Leeds, a former stockbroker who testified that Trump abruptly groped her against her will on an airplane in the 1970s, and from Natasha Stoyanov, a writer who said Trump forcibly kissed her against her will while she was interviewing him for a 2005 article. The 6-man, 3-woman jury also saw the well-known 2005 Access Hollywood hot mic recording of Trump talking about kissing and grabbing women by the pussy without asking. The Associated Press typically does not name people who say they have been sexually assaulted unless they come forward publicly, as Carroll, Leeds, and Stoyanov have done. The verdict comes as Trump is facing an accelerating swirl of legal risks. He's fighting a New York criminal case related to hush money payments made to a porn actress. The state attorney general has sued him, his family, and his business over alleged financial wrongdoing. Trump is also contending with investigations elsewhere into his possible mishandling of classified documents, his actions after the 2020 election, and his activities during the traitorous insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. I added the word traitorous because that's what it is. They were traitors. Trump denies wrongdoing in all of those matters. Carroll, who penned an Elle magazine advice column for 27 years, has also written for magazines and Saturday Night Live. She and Trump were in social circles that overlapped at a 1987 party where a photo documented them and their then spouses interacting. Trump has said he doesn't remember it. Oh, really? According to Carol, she ended up in a dressing room with Trump after they ran into each other at Bergdorf Goodman on an unspecified Thursday evening in the spring of 1996. They took an impromptu jaunt to the lingerie department so he could search for a woman's gift and soon were teasing each other about trying on a skimpy bodysuit, Carol testified. To her, it seemed like comedy, something like her 1986 Saturday Night Live sketch in which a man admires himself in a mirror. But then she said Trump slammed the door, pinned her against a wall, planted his mouth on hers, yanked her tights down and raped her as she tried to break away. Carol said she ultimately pushed him off with her knee and immediately left the store. Her voice breaking, she testified, quote, "I always think back to why I walked in there to get myself in that situation, but I'm proud to say I did get out," end of quote. She soon confided in two friends, according to her and them, but she never called police or told anyone else or noted it in her diary until her memoir was published in 2019. Carol said she kept silent out of fear that Trump would retaliate, out of shame and out of a sense that other people quietly denigrate rape victims and see them as somewhat responsible for being attacked. Trump weighed in on the case from afar, branding it a, quote, made-up scam, end of quote, in a social media post early in the trial. U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan called the comments entirely inappropriate and warned that Trump could cause himself more legal woes if he kept it up. Tacopina told the jury Carol made up her claims after hearing about a 2012 Law & Order episode in which a woman is raped in the dressing room of the lingerie section of a Bergdorf Goodman store. He told jurors that Carol, quote, cannot produce any objective evidence to back up her claim because it didn't happen, end of quote. He accused her of, quote, advancing a false claim of rape for money, for political reasons, and for status, end of quote. In questioning Carol, he sought to cast doubt on her description of fighting off the far heavier Trump without dropping her handbag or ripping her tights, and without anyone around to hear or see them in the upscale retailer's lingerie section. The lawyer pressed her about, by her own account, not screaming, looking for help while fleeing the store, or seeking out medical attention, security video, or the police. Carol reproached him, telling him, quote, I am telling you raped me whether I screamed or not, end of quote. There's no possibility of Trump being charged with attacking Carol as the legal time limit has long since passed. For similar reasons, she initially filed her civil case as a defamation lawsuit, saying Trump's derogatory denials had subjected her to hatred, shredded her reputation, and harmed her career. Then, starting last fall, New York State gave people a chance to sue over sexual assault allegations that would otherwise be too old. Carol was one of the first to file, and good for her. And let's get to our next story here. This is Michael Kunzelman, Lindsay Whitehurst, and Alana Durkin-Richer writing for the Associated Press. This is dated May 4th out of Washington, and it was a bad day for the Proud Boys. Former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio and 3 other members of the far-right extremist group were convicted last Thursday of a plot to attack the U.S. Capitol in a desperate bid to keep Donald Trump in power after the Republican lost the 2020 presidential election. A jury in Washington found Tarrio and 3 lieutenants guilty of seditious conspiracy after hearing from dozens of witnesses over more than 3 months in one of the most serious cases brought in the stunning attack that unfolded on January 6, 2021, as the world watched on live television. Jurors cleared a 5th defendant, Dominic Pezzola, of the sedition charge, though he was convicted of other serious felonies. The judge excused the jury without delivering a verdict on some counts, including another conspiracy charge for Pezzola, after jurors failed to reach a unanimous decision. It's a significant milestone for the Justice Department, which has now secured seditious conspiracy convictions against the leaders of 2 major extremist groups prosecutors say were intent on keeping Democratic President Joe Biden out of the White House at all costs. The charge carries a prison sentence of up to 20 years. Attorney General Merrick Garland told reporters after the verdict, quote, the Justice Department will never stop working to defend the democracy to which all Americans are entitled, end of quote. Tarrio, who has been behind bars since his March 2022 arrest, didn't appear to show any emotion as the verdict was read. He hugged one of his lawyers and shook the hand of the other before leaving the courtroom. A few of the people sitting among the defendant's relatives wiped away tears as the verdict was read. So there you go. The other three who were convicted were Ethan Nordine, Joseph Biggs, and Zachary Rell. They were also convicted, the four of them, of obstructing Congress's certification of Biden's electoral victory and obstructing law enforcement, as well as two other conspiracy charges. The four were cleared of an assault charge stemming from Pizzola, who stole an officer's riot shield. So, there you go. There goes a whole bunch of them. They're going to be going away for a long time. Just like the turds they are, they need to get flushed. Bye-bye. 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 Bye, Enrique. If you don't understand by now how much I hate conservatives, you never will. And right here's another reason why. I have this story. This is a very long piece. This is Mary Tuma writing for The Intercept. This is dated April 26th. This comes out of Texas. Listen to this, folks. This is really scary stuff here. A grateful Brittany Silva texted her best friends Jackie Noyola and Amy Carpenter last July. Quote, "Your help means the world to me. I'm so lucky to have y'all. Really." End of quote. A month after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, the Houston mother of two experienced an unplanned pregnancy with her now ex-husband and allegedly sought abortion care with the help of her friends. For nearly a year, Texas had imposed a 6-week abortion ban, and a full trigger ban would be enacted in just a few weeks. Silva needed to act fast and extricate herself from what appeared to be an emotionally unhealthy relationship with a husband she would go on to divorce in February. Her friends offered their unwavering support. Carpenter, who had advocated that Silva remove herself from her husband, according to court documents, wrote, quote, "I just worry about your emotional state. He'll be able to snake his way into your head." End of quote. Of her pregnancy, Silva said, quote, "I know either way he will use it against me. If I told him before, which I'm not, he would use it as a way to try to stay with me. And after the fact, I know he will try to act like he has some right to the decision." End of quote. Noyola wrote, quote, "Delete all conversations from today. You don't want him looking through it." End of quote. Not only did Marcus Silva access the private conversations his ex-wife had with her friends, he also filed an unprecedented lawsuit in March accusing Carpenter, Loyola, and Texas abortion rights activist Araceli Garcia of wrongful death, alleging the trio conspired to help his ex-wife obtain medication to terminate her pregnancy with a self-managed abortion. Attorneys for Silva also hope to sue into oblivion the manufacturer of the abortion pills procured. The complaint, filed in state court in Galveston County, Texas, seeks a stunning $1 million in damages from each woman. In the first lawsuit of its kind since Roe was struck down, the legal filing, riddled with sensitive information, instills a chilling effect on anyone who wishes to assist in abortion care, raising the threat of surveillance and public scrutiny, legal experts say. Filed by an influential conservative legal figure, the lawsuit also offers a window into the anti-abortion movement's growing push for fetal personhood. The lawsuit claims that aiding a self-managed abortion is tantamount to murder under state law, allowing Marcus Silva to bring a wrongful death case. Texas law specifically exempts the abortion patient from facing prosecution, leaving Brittany Silva out of the legal crosshairs. The alleged abortion occurred prior to enactment of the state's criminal trigger ban, which makes performing an abortion a felony punishable by up to life in prison. Marcus Silva's attorneys appear to rely instead on Texas's pre-Roe criminal ban, a 1925 statute that penalizes anyone who furnishes the means for abortion with up to 10 years in prison. The status of the antiquated law is murky. In July, the Texas Supreme Court temporarily ruled in a case filed by abortion providers that the law could only be enforced civilly. Earlier this year, U.S. District Judge Robert Pittman ruled that the law was obsolete as it had been repealed by implication following Roe, a finding that reaffirmed a 2004 Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruling. Some legal experts consider the lawsuit's argument highly tenuous. Since Brittany Silva is immune from prosecution, her alleged abortion shouldn't be considered a crime, leaving no basis to bring a wrongful death suit. Joanna Grossman, a gender and family law professor at Southern Methodist University, said, quote, "For this to be a wrongful death, you would have to have committed that criminal act. And because the pregnant person cannot be charged for homicide for self-managed abortion, it's not criminal. So there is no reason to think what her friends did to help is facilitating crime." End of quote. The suit might be easy to write off if it weren't for the figure behind it. Jonathan F. Mitchell, former Texas Solicitor General and architect of the state's 6-week abortion ban, Senate Bill 8. Mitchell filed the complaint along with Republican State Representative Briscoe Cain and the Thomas More Society, a religious right law firm known for pushing anti-abortion views through litigation. Dubbed a brilliant legal mind, Mitchell has a prolific background litigating right-wing causes, including anti-LGBTQ+, anti-union, and anti-abortion lawsuits. Oh, a brilliant legal mind. No, he's brainless. A former law clerk for the late U.S. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, Mitchell has ties to the Federalist Society, a group aligned with the court's right-wing bloc. Mitchell's legal crusades are often successful. He recently represented an anti-LGBTQ+ Texas activist who struck down a nationwide Obamacare provision that required insurance companies to cover a range of preventative care services, including HIV prevention measures such as PrEP, P-R-E-P. While reticent in the public spotlight, Mitchell has developed a reputation as a powerful actor behind the scenes, namely for crafting the novel legal provision at the heart of Texas Senate Bill 8, enacted in 2021 as a result of inaction by the U.S. Supreme Court. The law allows private citizens to act as vigilantes and sue abortion providers or anyone who aids or abets the procedure. Mitchell's legal efforts have often laid the groundwork for a larger plan. In 2019, he helped mastermind a string of local sanctuary for the unborn ordinances, which became the blueprint for Senate Bill 8, compelling cities to declare themselves abortion-free by imposing a similar civil enforcement mechanism. The ordinances, which have proliferated in 65 towns across the U.S., also sought to revive the Comstock Act, an archaic law that has emerged as the next weapon in the arsenal of the anti-abortion movement. Yeah, folks, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. So what is the Comstock Act? Let me step ahead a little bit here. The dormant 1873 anti-obscenity law bars any materials associated with abortion care, from pills to surgical equipment to information pamphlets, from shipment by mail, providing a possible foundation for a nationwide abortion ban. Initially intended to ban contraceptives, the law has not been enforced since the 1930s and has seen its scope narrowed over time. Violations of the Comstock Act can result in up to 10 years in prison. In a memo issued last year, the Department of Justice clarified that the 150-year-old law did not prohibit mailing abortion medication to patients in states where abortion remains legal, yet that has not deterred anti-abortion actors. In the wrongful death suit, Mitchell argued that the Biden memo was not entitled to deference from state courts and that anyone involved in the distribution of the pills Silva obtained, including the manufacturer, committed a wrongful act in violation of Comstock. Mitchell doubled down on the push to revive Comstock in another recently filed suit, asking a New Mexico judge to declare that the outdated law supersedes any state law protecting abortion access. This son of a bitch is dangerous, and something better be done about him now, before it's too late. You better figure it out, folks. You better figure it out. Speaking of dangerous people, let's get to our next segment.
Stop. Hammer time.
Oh, yeah, it's hammer time. It is time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. And our winner this week is Tulsi Gabbard. She wins for her anti-trans views that she portrayed on her recent appearance on Fox Propaganda Channel, which we have the audio for. So let's get to this. This runs about 3 minutes and 18 seconds, I believe. Folks, this is what supposed progressivism looks like. Take a listen.
Tulsi Gabbard, she's a former presidential candidate. She joins us now. Tulsi, this Washington Post poll that I referenced at the beginning of the show is pretty interesting because it shows the American people are with the case of sanity. It shows that to the tune of 57% Americans believe a person's gender is determined at birth. 60% plus do not believe that transgender individuals should be in women's sports. And this one stood out to me. 77% do not think we should be teaching gender ID in K through 3 school. That's, of course, that Florida bill that was so controversial. What are your thoughts?
Well, Kaylee, this should give us some hope to see that there is still some sense of common sense and sanity in our society, because this is the real question that we, the American people, are being faced with. We have leaders in the Democratic Party, unfortunately, and those in our society who are pushing this fantasy. They are asking us to take something that is clearly not real and believe that it's real.
Now, just hold on a second here. This isn't real, lady. You've got to be... Why don't you talk to trans people? Because you don't want to. Let me continue.
Asking us to take something that is very clearly a mental illness that creates this delusion where you have people saying, well, I'm a man in a woman's body and vice versa. And then doctors committing, in the case of children especially, this medical malpractice, trying to turn this fantasy into reality.
And I'm going to stop right there. It's not mental illness. It's not... there are so many things that just really piss me off about Tulsi Gabbard. Let me continue.
Creating incredibly negative short and long-term consequences, both physically and psychologically. And so,
no, you create the negative problems psychologically and physically long-term by not providing the care to them. Let me continue.
That's really the question that we, the American people, have to ask ourselves and to answer is, are we going to live in a society of common sense and reality, or are we going to buy into this insanity and this fantasy? Are we going to allow, and this is one of the reasons I left the Democratic Party, is because we have the Democratic Party of today selling this fantasy and catering to it and giving credibility to this fantasy.
No, you left the Democratic Party because you're a fucking conservative. You have always been a conservative. You just portrayed yourself as a progressive because you wanted to get elected. You'll say and do anything to get in power, just like every other single damn conservative out there. Let me continue.
These mental delusions, all because they think it'll give them more political power. A party that is willing to do anything, especially things that are damaging to children.
Right.
Yeah, let's take a look at your own party there, lady, the Republicans. You want damaging to children? It's called a lack of gun control in this country. That's why children are getting shot in school. That's why they're getting shot at malls. That's why they're getting shot playing hide and seek. Let me continue.
All for the sake of political power should be frightening to everybody.
And that's what astounds me about this, Tulsi. I mean, look, this isn't left or right. This is common sense. These are kids. These are children.
No, you've made it a left and right issue because you conservatives go after trans people. You want to murder them. You want to murder gay people. Get your head out of your asses.
It's a sterilization, but the degree to which it's not just Democrats, but the media covers for this, because those polling numbers I cited to you, that poll was commissioned in March. It was not until May that we get a headline from the Washington Post citing the data that, in fact, the American people are on the side of common sense. Why is the media buying into this too?
Because it takes a while for numbers to be crunched, you moron. I believe that's Kayleigh McEnany, that fucking that used to work for Donald Trump. Let me continue.
This is yet another example, Kaylee, of the collusion between the permanent Washington Democrats, the mainstream media. We see it in big tech and social media, people being banned from different accounts because of, quote unquote, misgendering someone, and frankly, just not going along with the insanity. And that's where it's critical for us, even as we see how pervasive this has become, for we, the American people, to have the courage to stand up and say, no, we live in the real world. We have common sense. We care about our children, and we will stop those who are trying to abuse them from being able to do so. This is a very real battle that each and every one of us has a role in fighting to protect our kids and to protect our future.
You violent sons of bitches don't give a f*** about children. That's why they're still being shot every single damn day in this country. The number one cause of death of children now, gunshot wounds. Because you sons of bitches won't pass any fucking laws. I'll just succinctly put it. Tulsi Gabbard is a and she is the winner of this week's douchebag of the week. So, Tulsi, we have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. All she is a... I just want to rip my hair out at hearing people like Tulsi Gabbard. It drives me nuts. It really does. I tell you what, let's get to our final story here. If you want to talk about mental illness, here you go, folks. This is our off-the-cuff segment this week. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. If you're eating, you're probably going to want to stop on this one because it's awful. This is Caitlin O'Kane writing for CBS News, dated May 8th. A Nashville hotel guest was sleeping soundly when at 5 a.m. he woke up to find a man licking his toes. Oh, that just makes my stomach turn. Now the hotel's night manager has been arrested and is being accused of sexual assault and is being sued along with the hotel. The hotel guest, Peter Brennan, says he woke up to find the disturbing scene and immediately started yelling at the man in his room who fled. By the way, this all happened on March 30th. We're just finding out about this because of the lawsuit being filed. The suspect has been identified as David Neal, the night manager at the Hilton downtown Nashville. That's according to the Rocky McElhaney law firm, which is representing Brennan, the hotel guest. In a news release, the law firm said that Brennan told hotel security about the alleged sexual assault, but they, quote, did not appear to take his complaint seriously, end of quote. Brennan then called the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, who began the investigation. Last week, Neal was arrested and charged with burglary in connection to the incident. Brennan is an Air Force veteran who was on a business trip in Nashville, and after the incident, he cut the trip short. What? Can you blame him? His lawyers allege Neal created a cloned keycard for Brennan's room to be able to enter it. They also allege that neither Hilton nor the specific hotel have apologized or responded to the law firm's request for surveillance video and data from the date of the incident. A Hilton spokesperson told CBS News via email that Hilton Nashville Downtown is independently owned and operated by a third party and no Hilton entity employs staff at that property. In a statement to CBS News, a spokesperson for the Hilton Nashville Downtown said, quote, the safety and security of our guests and team members is our highest priority. We are working closely with the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, and as part of company policy, we do not comment on ongoing investigations, end of quote. The law firm representing Brennan says their client has suffered, quote, from severe and permanent emotional distress, embarrassment, past and future medical expenses, and a loss of earning capacity, end of quote, and is seeking damages in a lawsuit filed last month. The defendant is also seeking punitive damages from Hilton to punish and deter the hotel chain from tolerating this kind of conduct. CBS News has reached out to Metropolitan Nashville Police for more information. They are awaiting a response. In an interview with WTVF television, Brennan said he instantly went into a sort of fact-finding mode when he saw the suspect in his room. He said he asked him, quote, who are you? Why are you in my room? What are you doing here? I could see he was wearing a uniform. He had his name tag on. He was talking to me, but not giving me any substantive answers. End of quote. Yeah, and you're probably not going to get very many substantive answers from this guy. What is his name? David Neal? Yeah, he's not going to talk. Oh, just gross. Anything having to do with toes is just really nasty. Oh, making me sick again. All right, folks, that's going to wrap things up for this week. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson. Please support independent media, the First Amendment, and a woman's right to choose.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.